Imagine waking up with a headache or a sore throat in the medieval ages. Now, what do? Go to the nearest doctor or pharmacy, think again. In the Middle Ages, medicine was more like a game of chance, where survival often depended on luck rather than actual treatment. Back then, doctors believed that illness was caused by an imbalance of the four humors in your body: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. To treat even the simplest cold, you might be subjected to bloodletting, where a barber surgeon, yes, your barber was also your doctor, would cut you open to let your blood drain. They thought this would balance your humors and cure you, but more often than not, it just made things worse. If bloodletting didn't work, you'd be prescribed a potion that could include anything from ground-up animal bones to lead or mercury. If these ingredients sound deadly, that's because they were. And don't think you'd escape with just a nasty stomach ache. Many people died from these treatments. Oh, and if you happen to get something more serious like the plague or smallpox, the medieval remedy was simple. Avoid looking at or speaking to the sick, cover yourself in vinegar-soaked cloths, and pray a lot. In short, if you had any kind of medical emergency, chances were high that the cure would be just as deadly, if not more so, than the disease itself. Hygiene in the Middle Ages was a concept barely recognized by most people. You'd be lucky if you had a bucket of cold water to splash on your face once in a while. Bathing was considered dangerous. Some believed it could open the pores and let in disease. Public bathhouses did exist, but they were also notorious spots for spreading infections or worse, becoming targets for crimes. Toothbrushes, toothpaste, and deodorants, forget about it. People cleaned their teeth with twigs or rags, and used herbs like rosemary to mask body odor. The streets were filled with filth, human and animal waste, rotten food, and garbage piled up everywhere. Breeding grounds for rats and fleas, the very creatures that spread deadly diseases like the bubonic plague. Even if you tried to keep clean, the dirt and disease from your surroundings would quickly catch up with you. The water you drank was often contaminated because people dumped waste into rivers, not realizing they were also poisoning their own drinking supply. If you somehow made it through a day without getting sick, you'd still be covered in grime, probably itching from head to toe with fleas or lice. In the medieval world, your life would be filled with hardship and oppression. Women were often seen as morally weak, and their roles were confined largely to domestic duties and childbearing. Biblical texts reinforced the notion that women should be silent and subservient to their husbands. If you were a peasant woman, your days would be filled with endless labor, from spinning and weaving to farming and caring for animals. Marriage, which was the most common fate for women, meant constant pregnancies and childbirth. Childbirth in the medieval ages was a dangerous ordeal. Without modern pain relief or sterile conditions, complications were common and often fatal. Even wealthy women were not guaranteed a safe delivery. Caesarean sections were only performed if the mother was already dead or dying. In places like 1420s Florence, 1 in 5 women died during childbirth. The idea of writing a will before giving birth was a grim necessity, underscoring how perilous bringing a child into the world could be. Consider yourself a child in the Middle Ages. If you managed to make it past infancy, you'd still face a harsh reality. Child mortality rates were staggeringly high. 1/3 of children didn't live past their 5th birthday. The risks began even before birth, as medieval women often consumed large quantities of alcohol, unknowingly endangering their unborn babies. Nutrition was poor, and diseases that we can now treat with ease were often fatal. Whooping cough, measles, and influenza were common killers, and a lack of medical knowledge meant that even minor illnesses could be deadly. In medieval Japan, the situation was even bleaker, with 48% of children dying before reaching adulthood. The sheer scale of child mortality across different cultures and regions paints a grim picture of early life in the Middle Ages.